Welcome back to Chamber Exchange, a TV show. I want to thank our sponsors who help make the show happen. That's St. Vincent Hospital and Bank Hometown. So again, appreciate them for allowing us to have the show. And I'm very pleased to have in our final segment, Susan Buchholz, who is the Executive Director of the Heartwell Institute. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so if somebody is not familiar with the Heartwell Institute, maybe you could take a few moments to kind of share what the mission and goal of the Heartwell Institute.
Sure. So the Heartwell Institute actually began in Worcester in 2013, so we've been around for a long time. Yeah. I've actually been the executive director for just a year.
Okay.
And a lot of things have happened since 2013, including COVID and just a lot of changes. Where in this
further explosion of social media.
Yes,
and,
yes,
what that does to our minds.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, what it does to our minds. You're absolutely right. So we, the original mission was to make mindfulness accessible to everyone, particularly people that could really most benefit. I often say that, that mindfulness is associated with women in yoga pants. Yeah. And the fact is that mindfulness has a very strong evidence base. And it was an evidence base that was actually developed right here in Worcester.
Yeah, and so I want to come back to that in a moment. So what would your definition be of mindfulness?
Mindfulness is being in the moment. It really is, and it sounds so simple, but you know that it's hard to do.
Right.
It's really hard to just focus on what is happening right in this moment. Our minds have evolved to always being thinking about the next thing. And of course, as you said, social media has really reinforced that idea that our heads are always somewhere else.
Right.
And what John Kabat-Zinn at UMass, what he was able to lay the evidence for was that when people are able to experience being in the moment, blood pressure drops, there's less pain felt in the body. And when it's practiced regularly, it lowers our stress levels. It's been proven to dramatically reduce depression. And of course, there's lots of benefits in the workplace too.
Right. And so you mentioned, think of women in yoga pants, and you think of mindfulness. I mean, that concept, and one of the reasons I asked for that definition is because it's now manifested itself into conversations at the workplace.
Absolutely.
You see top athletes getting training in this so that when they're on the field or on the court, they're singularly focused on that. So it's something that has kind of grown. And so maybe you could talk about how and why it was invented here and kind of how people can.
Sure. So mindfulness in its essence is not new. It's been around for thousands of years, but it's been called different things. It's been called insight meditation or Zen or these other concepts. What John Kabat-Zinn did at UMass is he made it, he kind of westernized it in a way that was accessible to people. And he provided a medical evidence base, which is so important. The original idea was to help people who were suffering with chronic pain. And it really was incredibly important in terms of treating people with chronic pain. But there are many other benefits that that have been documented since then. And you mentioned sports teams. I learned only recently that about 40% of Fortune 500 companies have mindfulness as part of their business plan, and they're offering it to their employees.
And so you mentioned kind of those courses or offerings. How do those manifest themselves? If there's a company, if there's an individual, how do they learn about it? Are they taught? I mean, part of what Heartwell Institute is courses and programming. That's not just for somebody who may not know anything about it, but you also work with healthcare professionals, and
yes, we do,
and so that they know that this can be a component of a recommendation or a healing process or or management process.
Yes, and a creative work process, a productivity process, absolutely. So the foundation of modern mindfulness is MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. That really is the scientific basis of all modern mindfulness. You'll frequently see a mindfulness program and it will say, based on the foundations of mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so at Heartwell, the way that plays out is we offer MBSR as a foundational course. We have certified teachers. We offer it in English and Spanish. And then we also offer an array of other courses that are based on MBSR. So right now we have 2 cohorts actively progressing through mindfulness-based self-compassion, which is something that I think is really important right now, as it really focuses on not just compassion for others, but most importantly, compassion and forgiveness for ourselves. So we have several courses, and they are, again, based on mindfulness-based stress reduction. We also customize and curate programming based on the scientific principles, and we can customize it for an organization, for a company.
So an example, you mentioned a Fortune, some of the, I think you said 40% of Fortune?
40%,
Fortune 500,
yeah.
Fortune 500 companies have this as part of their culture or training. So what might that look like? I mean, you said customized, but what would be kind of an example of how a company might utilize this?
So it could be a 1-day introduction to mindfulness. It could be a 2-hour introduction to mindfulness. When we've come to companies or organizations and introduced it, inevitably, we have someone who comes up to us afterwards and says, I've done this, or I've always wondered about this. So even just introducing it to the culture of the organization can be a great place to start. And then, if I was going to bring it to you, Tim, I'd say, how many employees do you have? What is your training structure? What is your budget? We want to make this as accessible as possible. It's a $1 trillion business worldwide. But we want to make it accessible to everyone who has an interest and could benefit.
So you can customize it based upon budget, the particular needs, time, and then there are actually courses that people can take for extended periods of time.
Right. And right now we're able to offer those to many Worcester residents at no charge at all, thanks to funding from the City of Worcester. We have ARPA funding. The Greater Worcester Community Foundation has also been a generous supporter, Unibank. So people recognize the value of mindfulness, particularly now. I don't think we've ever been a country more under stress than right now.
That is true.
Yeah.
And we talk about the impact of social media too, some of which is designed to play on people's minds, particularly targeted towards younger women. Some of these algorithms are designed to, so there's an awareness of how do you take control of your own kind of situation, right?
Right. Being aware of it is the first thing. A lot of people don't know why it's so hard to put down your phone. I find myself, I'll pick up the phone and 45 minutes goes by and I think, why could I not put down the phone? Well, if you know that every time you see a video, you get a dopamine, burst in your brain.
Got it.
And when you are spending a lot of time on social media, your brain actually has a hard time producing its own dopamine. And so when you're not on the phone, you're not feeling very well.
Well, lot to talk about here. Heartwellinstitute.org is where people can go online. Phone number 2, website and contact information. Susan, this was great, and appreciate you sharing an important topic with us.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. That wraps up our final segment. Thank our sponsors, Bank Hometown and St. Vincent Hospital.